entry episode, which it was partially. The other part was Glenn's back. Hooray! Spoiler alert, he's alive, as we suspected. But it was definitely very nicely paced. I like the way everything kind of pieced together. All the loose threads, for the most part, are being wrapped up right now, and I'm very pleased to see that. And I'm actually liking the way that this time jumping is going. All these events have happened in really a day or a day and a half or 2 days, if you will, in Showtime this whole season. So I'm really liking this, though. I mean, I should go back and just binge watch the whole first half of the season once we're done with next week. But so far, this episode was good, and I'll save the rest of my comments for the remainder of the show.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think it was somewhere between last week's episode and the week before's episode. Honestly, there wasn't anything, really that just blew me away this episode. But by the same token, there wasn't anything that really put me off other than Enid, which I'm sure we'll get into quite a bit coming up. But yeah, it was a fine episode. I mean, kept things moving forward. And obviously the big finale sets us up for next week. So
yeah, this was definitely, for me, an episode I liked much, much better than last week. It certainly wasn't a perfect episode, but there was enough things in it that I really liked, and not those same problems that I had last time, that I was in a much better mood watching this week's episode. But we'll get into that as when we go through the
It's good to hear, Jordan. You're a little down on last week's episode. Glad to see you're feeling better about this week.
It's rare that I have to spend an hour and a half talking about something I didn't like, and I generally don't like doing that, so I'm happy that I don't have to do a repeat of that. But this week's episode, like we said, Season 6, Episode 7, was entitled Heads Up. It was written by Channing Powell and directed by David Boyd. And I don't think we had any guest stars out of the ordinary, so while we're going through them, although we did get a nice appearance of Major Dodson in the episode. So, the episode starts back in that alley where Nicholas and Glenn were on top of the dumpster before, of course, Nicholas killed himself, and the two fell off into a pile of walkers, and like Craig, you said earlier, like we pretty much assumed, yeah, that was Nicholas being torn apart, not Glenn. Glenn used his strength to pull himself under the dumpster, and the walkers some of the walkers saw him and tried to get at him, but he took them out with knives, and the others eventually just lost interest and were distracted by other things, possibly Enid, I guess to get ahead of ourselves, possibly just generic cans rolling around, but I have a feeling it was Enid or somebody else actually doing that on purpose. And he spent the night under the dumpster before coming out the next morning, and he hears someone yelling to him, "Heads up," where we get our episode title, and it's Enid tossing him a bottle of water, and she tells Glenn that Alexandria was attacked, but then she runs away before he can question her further, and he chases after her into the street.
So I'm okay, and I'm going to say this for the record, I'm okay the way Glenn got out of this. I'm not okay with the way the show has been trolling us about Glenn's fate, but I'm very okay with the way that he slid under there. I could see that being viable, and him kind of protecting himself by stabbing a few walkers around the perimeter of that dumpster, so they couldn't reach in around the dead walkers. I'm kind of okay with all that. It didn't seem plausible, it didn't seem hokey. I'm sure if Aaron were on, I'm sure Jim will have some comments about this, you guys too, but I'm perfectly fine with that whole cold open. It worked for me, although stop teasing us, though, that the show has to stop doing that.
I thought it was masterfully shot. I mean, the one thing that opening did was give you a really good feeling that of the claustrophobia that Glenn was feeling. I mean, that camera was in there, like right in his face. You could tell it was wedged up, under the dumpster and around. I mean, so that I just thought, I looked to see, and it wasn't Nicotero that directed this episode. I think it was Daniel Boyd.
David Boyd, I think?
David Boyd, yeah. I knew his last name was Boyd. That he directed it. Boyd Crowder. Walton Goggins directed this episode.
Amazing.
But it was really, I thought that was extremely well done. I mean, to build tension and to, obviously at this point we knew Glenn was going to be okay, but still, I like the way that it was shot. And, again, it's just one of those things. I mentioned this a little bit last week, that when it comes to the walkers and how they treat the cast members, it's almost like it's a means to an end. They can be as dumb as they need to be to get the point across, or smart as they need to be to make something bad happen. So I just kind of take it with a grain.
Yeah, I was going to say I was of two minds about the scene, but when I really think about it, I'm more of like 6 minds about this scene. So where to even begin? First off, I guess I'll bounce off of how you started your comment, Russ, which is how it was shot. I thought how it was shot was really, really great, because I know a lot of people, even before this episode came out, when people were theorizing as to how Glenn could have gotten out of that situation, and we pretty much figured it out, but a lot of people said, and I didn't necessarily disagree with them, boy, that sounds dumb. He just pulls himself under the dumpster and they're not able to get to him. But the way Boyd and whoever was the DP, I don't know who was the focus puller, but the way they shot that opening sequence of this episode, I thought really, really worked well to take something that could be a really type moment and make it compelling and make it seem believable. The shots they were using, the angles they were using, and like I said, how claustrophobic it felt, totally worked for me. To make me go, you know what, I can buy that. I don't really have a problem. Now that I've seen how they actually did it, it's different than how I had it in my head, even though it was the same basic mechanics, it worked. On the stretching it out angle, I kind of agree with you, Craig, in that, man, they really stretched this out, but at the same time, I get that it bothered a lot of people, but I'd be lying if I said it bothered me, really.
It's not so much the stretching it out. They took his name off the credits, the little stupid misdirection from Scott Gimple on the Talking Dead. It was more that than this whole arc. Like, if I just watched this in a binge watch, and I didn't hear any of the noise from the producers, and I didn't notice the name falling off the credits, there would have been no problem. It was that part of it that they tried to trick us, and I don't know. I thought that was just a little cheap.
I don't know. To me, that's their job. And if they left his name in the credits and didn't make those comments, it would also seem cheap to the same. I don't know. That type of thing doesn't bother me. It's like metagaming. I don't know. I get what you're saying. But then beyond that, I also, because I know there are still people who just don't like that. Oh, really? He pulled himself under the dumpster? That's dumb. And okay, fine. I would say this: if you go, and someone has probably already done this on YouTube, if you take the last 15 seconds of 4 episodes ago, when they fell off the dumpster, and edit it right to the beginning of this first 90 seconds of this episode, if you watch that if that was in the episode, and granted, this is not what they did, but if that scene was in the episode beginning to end, and it was just shot, fall off the dumpster, pulls himself away under the dumpster, and that was in the middle of an episode,
right,
no one would have batted an eye at all and said that was dumb.
Like a commercial break in between. Like you see his face go to commercial, and then you see him pulling himself under the dumpster. That would have been fine. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that I want to start holding the show to a different standard just because, they put several episodes in between. Is it cheap? Sure, maybe, but it's a TV show, and they're doing their job. Like, I don't know that I can really fake being bothered by it when, to be honest, I'm not. Like, it is what it is. And like I said, because this opening went above my expectations, I'm even happier. It's so, I don't know. I guess that's I'll stop what I'm saying there, because at this point I've rambled for too long already. But
yeah, I'm with you on this, Jordan. I mean, the goal of the production side of a TV show or a movie or any kind of media is to get people to watch. And by doing what they did with the Glenn thing, it definitely got people back, right? Because people are like, well, is he alive or isn't he alive? I mean, to me, I didn't ever think that he was dead, especially because what's his face said thank you and sacrificed himself. So if Glenn was going to die too, like what was the point of that? You know, if the guy was being a jerk and just grabbed him and Glenn and just threw themselves off the side because they thought it was hopeless, that okay, then maybe it would have been a bigger question in my mind as to whether they're both dead. But you don't give somebody a noble sacrifice and then make it completely useless. You know, that and the fact that he was covered in blood and guts. You know, that's the other thing. So he's hiding under the dumpster and he's got blood and guts and stuff all over him, which we know in the past has been used to to disguise the fact that they're not one of, or that make the walkers to think that they're one of them. So I kind of almost saw that as well. That's why they weren't tenacious in keep going after him. Once he killed a few of them to kind of block the path and he's covered in all this goo and guts, I could see where the rest of them would kind of back off because they would just assume there's nothing there.
Right. And again, they put in 4 or 5 cutaways of the walkers losing interest or being distracted by other things up in the air, down on the ground, down the alley. And to me, I don't think say what you will about their decisions to split it up by 4 episodes and whether or not the pulling under the dumpster is a good idea or not. I'm not saying this to you, Craig, specifically, or to Russ specifically, or to any listener specifically. I'm just saying in general. Say what you will about that. I think Boyd and the DP did a masterful job of choosing shots to make it seem as believable as they possibly have could. And I think, if nothing else, A+ for that, because they took a very bad situation, possibly, and made the best they possibly could out of it. I think they did a pretty decent job.
Oh, agreed. I agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. And I like that people were talking about, is Glenn dead, is Glenn alive? And even Scott Gimple said that on this last episode of The Talking Dead, that the whole world was somewhat in his mind. I guess a lot of people were, a lot of people do watch the show, talking about, is he alive, is he dead? It became a lot of water cooler talk, a lot of people talking about the show, which you can't necessarily get from a binge watch situation. Like, if you binge watch it by yourself, you can't talk about it with your friends because there could be a different point in the series. So it was cool for that degree. It's just taking the name off the credits, I guess, is really specifically what bothered me, and the mysterious statements made by them. But other than that, I agree with everything you said. It was shot wonderfully done.
So back in Alexandria, Rick asks Morgan if they can speak later, and Rick inspects the perimeter wall and notices a cracking wall with blood trickling through from the other side, which kind of confirms our questions of, wait, was it actually a crack with blood coming through? Well, yes, it was. It wasn't dripping from above, or
It looked like a hole, though. Didn't look like a bullet hole.
Or a rivet hole, or just, it's corrugated steel for the most part, right? So, that does have holes in it, generally.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a couple of bullet holes that may have just happened when the attack may have happened. I mean, who knows?
I don't know, I think it looked a little bit too round. A hole like that from an impact would probably be a bit more jagged. I don't know. If a bullet was even, like maybe a 50 cal could go through that. I don't know. I haven't taken a lot of pot shots at corrugated steel recently, but I'm guessing that wouldn't work quite that well. Although it is TV, so you gotta kind of, suspend it there for a second.
It is obvious, though, because I once thought that it wasn't. I thought it was dripping from above. But you're right, it's definitely oozing from the outside.
In the shots in that other episode, it was definitely very dark and very hard to tell. Now
Right.
that we've got a full shot, though,
Yes.
it is good to have that confirmed. It wasn't Spencer doing something dumb and falling off the roof, although he will try to top that this episode, which we'll do. So Rick joins Maggie at the lookout post, where she anxiously scans the horizon for a sign from Glenn, and Rick proposes that they lure the walkers away from Alexandria so that Glenn and the others can safely return, and we have the wonderfully hilarious moment of her noting that Judith is starting to look like Laurie, and there was so much subtext to that little line that I loved, and I guess Maggie would have to be somewhat aware of what a tightrope she was walking with that comment, right? I mean, she met Shane. Does she know that Shane and Laurie were a thing for a while? Glenn must have told her that at some point, right?
Everybody knew. That whole group from Atlanta knew.
But she kind of came in halfway through that, which is why.
Yeah, she came in later, so yeah, toss up.
Yeah, like it
maybe.
didn't feel like her poking the bear. It just felt like a very poor choice of words, but it did make me laugh for sure.
I mean, I thought Rick's face was really interesting there. As soon as she said the word Lori, he got that look on his face again, like he's seeing stuff and things out there in the horizon.
Well, what was his response? She's like, I thought she looked more and more like Laurie every day. He's like, yeah, I was very happy about that. As I guess as opposed to her looking more and more like Shane.
He just agreed with her. He said yes. Yeah, he did one of those things, and it was. But that look on his face was as soon as she said Lori, he went back to that look when he was seeing things outside the prison. He was seeing hallucinations of Lori out there. He had that same look. It was
Just
very
hearing a
funny.
telephone ringing in the distance.
Yes, exactly.
Meanwhile, back in the other town, I don't actually know if we know what town Glenn is in, if we had a name for that. But regardless, the town Glenn is in, Glenn discovers the zombified remains of David, remember the guy who was trying to get over the fence, with the toilet paper note for his wife, but he didn't make it. And Glenn puts him out of his misery, stab wound through the head. And nearby, he finds that note that David wrote to Betsy.
That whole bit, the look on Glenn's face, I even wrote this down as a note. He had that look like, man, I'm getting tired of having to put these people out of their misery. Like it was just like, here we go again, another one that I gotta go up and stab in the head because it's just laying around, waiting to bite something.
Well, plus you have the symbolism of him finding the note, and it's that guy's note for his wife, and Glenn was trying to get a message to his wife. And we even talked about, you actually went on that one, but there was that nice symmetry in the episode where it looked like Glenn died, of using David as the proxy for Glenn and Maggie's story, but instead making it David and Betsy, and so you could pepper in all those emotions before you even got to the Glenn moment, and it was like it was very, very subtle foreshadowing of whose story you were actually telling in that episode, which you liked.
Right.
And this was a great zombie kill. I mean, the look on his face was just really good. The eyeball was stuck to the fence, and
Oh yeah, that was gross.
just a really nice one. I mean, this fresh zombie, nice shot, nice kill. And then this is the point where I guess Glenn was gonna go over the fence and go back to Alexandria, but when he saw that note, he decided, you know what? Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. I should go back and go after Enid. That was a turning point right there, I believe.
And we're now joined by Jim Dietz. How you doing, Jim?
Hello.
And just generally speaking, what did you think of this week's episode before we get back to the synopsis?
More of a connective tissue episode than anything really meaningful. Kind of just setting everything up for the mid-season finale, it seemed. They resolved the Glenn thing finally. And I don't know. It just seemed more connective tissue than actual.
Better or worse than last week to you?
Probably a little better, just because they resolved the Glenn thing. I really thought that went on a little long. I'm just glad they finally resolved it. I want to be the president of the I Hate Enid Club. I just really not like.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I do not like
All right.
it.
I think you might have some competition, but we haven't quite gotten to that yet.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Wow.
So Glenn is about to head back to Alexandria, but at the last minute he has to change of heart, and he heads back into the town to look for Enid. Back in Alexandria, Gabriel posts some signs for a prayer circle that afternoon, and Rick walks right past him, kind of sideswipes him with his elbow or shoulder, and then he just rips the sign down and walks off, and Gabriel kind of turns around and replaces it with a new sign as Carl looks on at his dad as a, boy, that was cold move, Dad, but I laughed so hard when Rick did that. I love
That was a super dick move.
I love that the show, that the creators of the show have fully embraced the fact that we hate Gabriel, and they're letting Rick be our proxy for that. I think it's like now the third or fourth time this season that he's just done something where Gabriel says, I'll help. He's like, no, screw you, you're staying home, or just walks past him, or in this case, pull it down. Oh, I laughed so hard.
That was perfect. I mean, I could watch that all day.
It's extremely petty and childish, don't get me wrong, but it's still funny to me. And I think it's even one up later with Tara later on, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Tara made it out of the episode after that.
Rick and Carl later on are teaching Ron how to use a gun because they're really, really dumb, or they are just way ahead of the curve and they're tricking him. We'll see. But Rick stresses the importance of waiting for the right moment to shoot and not having your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Some nice gun advice there. And he gives Ron an unloaded gun, but refuses to let him actually practice shooting. And Carl provides hilariously simplistic commentary to Ron, treating him like a 5-year-old. But I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's just becoming more and more painfully obvious it's going to come back to bite Carl in the butt somehow.
Unless they're really, really misdirecting us, but we'll see. With the way this episode not quite ends, but right before the ending, we'll see. So Morgan is on his way to the infirmary later on when Rick flags him down, and Rick, Michonne, and Carol and Morgan sit down and have a discussion about his refusal to kill the wolves during the attack. Morgan maintains that all life is precious and that bad people are capable of changing, but making it now, Rick challenges, do you really think you can do that without getting blood on your hands? And Morgan admits he does not know. And Carol and Michonne also have some nice points that they throw in there. I actually thought, for as much as I disagree with Morgan, I think the show's really handling his philosophy really well, but also handling the criticisms of his philosophy really, really well. I like the scene a lot.
Very good scene. I mean, the whole scene was perfect. And, Morgan is such a Lenny James great actor. If you notice this, when he was doing his monologue or his explanation, there was no edits. It was just him talking, just going straight on. He's that good of an actor. They didn't have to keep cutting back and forth. But I like the new leadership council. Is this what this is now? The triumvirate?
That's what I was going to say. Like the new triad is like Carol, Michonne, and Rick.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it too. It's great. I mean, and Morgan's my fourth favorite character, so there you go, all 4 of them in one scene.
They can sit in a room and talk for a whole episode. It'll be fine. Let's just keep going.
I have to agree with Craig, though. Great acting in the scene all around. Like, all 4 actors really playing all off each other. Of course, I mean, we expect it from Lenny James, but I mean, I think his game being so high, it ups everyone else's in the scenes that he's in, and I really think that's evident in the scene.
So on the porch, Rick and Michonne come up with a strategy to lure the walkers away from Alexandria, and Michonne urges Rick to enlist the Alexandrians' help, executing the plan, but Rick is unsure. And then Deanna joins them and excitedly reveals her plan for an expansion of the community, telling them that there will be an after this, and they need to plan for it and not just live day to day.
I didn't understand that little conversation or her problem with Rick there. Like she's trying to say, really? What was that all about? What was she questioning him on?
Michonne or Deanna?
Michonne questioning Rick. I didn't understand that. Like he said, we'd only use Georgia people for this operation to get the.
Because throughout this episode, Rick keeps treating it like an us and them, and Michonne and Tara and the others are trying to make him come to terms with the fact that it's no longer us and them, it's us. And we need to start using them, and not using them, but we need to start accepting them and including them and integrating with them, or just more and more people are going to die.
Okay, and I guess I drove that point home throughout the whole episode, if we get that to the end.
Exactly. We get a nice kind of standalone but very funny scene of Rosita offering machete lessons to a group of Alexandrians, including Eugene, who's worried about injuring someone because he's carrying a weapon, and there are people with open-toed shoes around, which I laugh very hard at. Meanwhile, Glenn finds Enid hiding in a restaurant and orders her to return to Alexandria. She points a gun at him and tells him no, and he takes the gun away from her and basically forces her to come along with him.
Now, I really like this scene because it was just she's pointing a gun at him, and Glenn is just he's not menaced in any way. He just walks up to her, he's like, "You're not going to pull the trigger. You're not going to shoot me," and just walks up and takes it from her. Good scene.
In between there was a commercial. We had a Flight 462 update as well. The reflux bathroom cougher is now dead due to a bite. Plane is redirected to LA.
I did like the makeup on his bite wound, actually. I thought it was nice and realistic looking. Now that things are actually happening on Flight 42, whatever, I'm not hating it anymore. It's still mostly nothing, but it's an enjoyable mostly nothing, I guess, at this point.
I'm going to still claim that it's the same plane that flew over the Clark House and was kind of wobbly. I'm going to say
I think 100%.
Okay. Now that's heading to LA. Yeah, I wasn't sure at first, but now, yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I got you. So in Alexandria, Rick saws wood to build new supports for the wall, and Tobin joins him, and they stand there and they help. Tobin's actually in a lot of this episode. He doesn't say a lot, but again, he seems to be one of the good ones of the Alexandrians who's willing to help and to listen and to accept advice, and that's good. And again, they see the crack in the wall, and Rick assures Tobin the wall will survive as long as they shore it up. And Tobin admits that the residents had been elected to change, but acknowledges that Rick had been right all along, but says, please don't give up on us. Again, like you said before, reiterating my point.
They're going to drive it home again and again, and maybe again before the episode's over. Okay.
So Glenn and Enid find some green balloons left over from Rick's walker herding mission, and Enid suggests that they use the balloons to distract walkers, and Glenn directs her to a bush showing more balloons and a helium tank, and Enid inflates some more balloons as Glenn lectures her against acting rashly out of fear, and she tells him, we don't have to talk. But they still will, a lot. In the pantry at Alexandria, Ron knocks over some items to distract Olivia so he can steal bullets from the armory because he's squirrely. And Glenn and Enid finally arrive at Alexandria and find it surrounded by walkers, and Enid's mood sinks, but Glenn insists that they move on.
Going back to the pantry for a second, and just one second, Olivia guarding the pantry. She's the guard, right? She's the one supposed to be in charge of watching this pantry.
I don't know if I'd say guard so much as cashier.
Cashier, she's watching the store. She has to be the worst one I've seen because so far Carol has stolen guns, ammo, and chocolate. The angry Alexandrians and Spencer stole food from there, and now Ron walks in and steals 9mm ammunition. So she's not doing a really good job guarding that pantry.
The shoplifting dead.
So then we head back to the wall with them working on it when just the most I want to be clear here, I'm not like knocking the scene in terms of I hated it because I didn't hate it, but I was very flabbergasted by it when all of a sudden as they're working on the wall, Spencer throws a grappling hook and starts shimmying over the wall along a rope he's attached to the watchtower with that grappling hook. So panic ensues because he doesn't know what he's doing. No one else is quite sure what he's trying to do. Rick screams at Spencer to turn back. He doesn't. Tara and Eugene notice the rope is slackening and that the grappling hook may be slipping a bit. So Eugene goes for help. Tara climbs over the wall and starts shooting walkers. The rope falls. Spencer falls, and everyone starts taking out zombies as Rick and the others help pull Spencer with the rope back up over the wall, and he loses his shoe. And then Rick yells at after they've saved Spencer, not his shoe, but saved Spencer. Rick yells at Tara for endangering her life yet again to save an Alexandrian, and she gives him this baffled, "Are you kidding me?" look and flips him off, which made me laugh incredibly hard. And what's even better is Michonne's reaction to her flipping him off right next to it. It's very subtle, but go back and check that out. It's very funny. And then Rick turns his rage on Spencer, and Spencer explains that he had intended to find a carter to draw the walkers away from the wall, and Rick orders Spencer to come to him before executing any future strategies, before you try any other dumb plans. And Spencer says something along the lines of, "Yeah, it was a dumb plan, but at least I tried. Can you say the same?" And I wish Rick had said, "No, I didn't, and I wouldn't because it was a dumb plan." But the scene ends before he gets a chance to say anything like
because
that.
I know that I'm not friggin' Batman. Okay.
Spencer for hire thought he was in the A-Team. He switched shows on us there.
Yeah, right.
But I thought, honestly, I mean, half thought, I shouldn't say seriously thought, that Rick was going to pull his Colt Python out and shoot Tara from across the across the way when he got the middle finger from her. I'm really surprised she made it through this episode.
Oh, not only did she make it yet, well, spoilers, Jerry, but he has to go back and apologize to her later for being a jerk, which he was. Let's be fair.
But she still stands up to him at that point, which is really cool. I like Tara more and more.
But I mean, the whole thing with Spencer
So many
was
headshots.
so WTF for me. I'm just like, okay, they know that there's that sewer system underneath, right? That Maggie took. When she.
But Rick doesn't know yet. See, that's the thing. He doesn't know about that.
But doesn't Spencer know because he's an Alexandrian? He wouldn't know about it from living there.
Maybe he
I mean,
only
there's
has
other options other than him trying to be friggin' Batman. Throwing a grappling hook and trying to shimmy across an ocean of zombies. I mean, that's like the dumbest plan it could possibly be. I mean, there's no distraction. I mean, you could have at least coordinated with someone else to sound a horn and make a noise to distract the zombies long enough to get to a car, or something. I mean, it just seemed like it just seemed like the dumbest plan known to man. And then, you're right. You're absolutely right, Jordan. I thought Rick was going to call him on it and just be like, "Are you kidding me?" But that's I don't know. It just really kind of just came really out of left field for me.
And like in my head, there's two very strongly competing thoughts about the grappling thing. One is that's really dumb. I can't believe Spencer would do it, but it's really dumb that Spencer would do that. But at the same time, not to get into the comics really, but that is something that has been used many times in the comics. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But so the other half of my brain is going, oh, that's really cool. They brought in a grappling hook, just like they would use in the comics all the time, particularly around Alexandria. So I don't know. Like at some point, I'm like, that's not necessarily a terrible plan. Really, the problem with the plan was the fact that he told no one and decided to just do it. That's the real problem there. It's a workable plan if they did it the right way. They
That's
just,
what I'm
he
saying.
just did
Yeah,
it completely
second
wrong way.
person. I mean, if they had a second person to just distract the herd, draw their attention away from him while he was doing it, or gone to a less populated part of the wall, or it seemed like there were 100 different ways that could have been better.
Yeah, he's not thinking straight. He's still hitting the sauce. He's still hitting that whiskey he stole from the commissary. I mean,
The crackers are absurd.
the cracker. Yeah.
Yes, he has.
Seriously, did Spencer have any real training on the outside of the walls? Or I thought his brother Aiden was the one that made the runs. Did he ever have any real training? He even asked Rosita a couple episodes ago, is this the way it really is out here? So maybe he really doesn't know how to handle walkers, combat, grappling hooks, action of any sort.
Yeah, I think he's mostly been a sentry up till now.
Right, in the tower sometimes.
And not just because that's what we've seen him doing most of the time, but I think also Deanna said that, like last season, that most of the time it's Spencer up there being the sentry.
Yep.
We then check in with the infirmary, and we see Dr. Denise, and she's curious when Morgan stops by to ask for antibiotics, and after some probing, I guess he goes back twice. The first time he goes in, he talks to her, but it's a nice little scene, he leaves, and then he comes back later and is like, hey, I need some antibiotics, but here's the thing, can you keep a secret? They're not from me. And the two of them head over to the place where he's keeping the alpha wolf. And that's when Carol notices out the window, or actually she's on the porch, she notices Morgan leading Denise down to the townhouse with the jail cell. And so she heads to Jesse's house to ask her if she can watch Judith. There's a nice little Sam Carol interaction, and then she follows him there. And when she unlocks the door, Morgan comes around the corner and she demands who he is holding in the cell. So they move through that a lot faster than I thought they would. I see it, I follow them, and then all of a sudden they know I'm there. This could have been something that they dragged out for a while, but it seems like they're gonna get through it pretty quickly. Although with the way the episode ends, they might have to take a detour. We'll see.
Well, you covered a lot there. I mean, Morgan and Denise, I like that scene in the hospital or in the infirmary, if you will, there. Whoppers, the little acronym she's creating for herself.
Yes.
I like this little relationship. I like the actress that plays Denise. I like her a lot. She's doing a lot with that character with the little that she's given. And Carol definitely sees what's going on from the porch. She doesn't miss a beat. And she's standing there with the baby in her hand. She sees Morgan walking out. Immediately, her radar is up. She goes, okay, all right. And then Denise follows him. Something's going on there. But my question to all of you is this: did you see Jesse was like building something on the porch? Was that stupid owl again? Is she fooling around with that thing again?
I didn't notice what she was doing on the porch.
I
I
didn't
thought she had a gun though. Didn't she have a gun with her when
It
Carol
wasn't a
came
gun, it
over?
was a hammer. I rewound it. She was building something or fixing some kind of sculpture, something on the porch when Carol came up with baby Judith and said, hey, can you watch her for me? And she goes inside to put the tools away. I mean, this is 24 hours ago, she was stabbing a person in her kitchen. And now she's fooling around with that owl sculpture again. It just made
It could have
no
mattered.
sense
She
to
could have been repairing a broken window. I honestly did not notice what she was working on. But
Okay.
there could have been a broken window from the attack or something.
Possibly,
There's plenty of non-owl related hammer things she could be doing.
Maybe she was hammering out a new haircut for her son.
me. Don't need a haircut, Mom.
Meanwhile, we catch up with Carl, speaking of Ron, and we see Carl walking down the street, and Ron is quietly following behind him, and he is gripping the handle or the grip of the gun that is in the back of his waistband as he follows Carl. And what happens next? Well, we don't know because we don't check in with that again until next week, presumably. There's nothing else of that story in this episode.
Just real quick though, I like the relationship between, just going back one more scene, between Carol and Major Dodson, aka Sam. They got this really weird relationship going on. That little conversation they have while he's at the top of the stairs and he doesn't understand walkers, monsters as he calls them, and she's
Well, it was a
just
callback
straight
to the
talk.
movie scene of last season with him asking her about what she had said there, which I like that they're keeping that in.
Oh yeah. It's just really, it's just a strange relationship. This tough love thing that she's giving him while the mother's kind of sugarcoating everything. It's interesting. I like the way it's going.
So as Rick and Tobin are shoring out the wall, Rick sees Tara and he goes over to apologize to her for yelling at her. Deanna thanks Rick for saving Spencer, and Rick demurs and says that she should be thanking Tara because it's Tara who actually did more to save Spencer's life than he did. And Deanna replies and saying that she already did, and Deanna asks why he did it, and Rick says it's because he's your son, and Deanna replies that is the wrong answer. Meanwhile, Maggie's on watch and she sees the balloons that Glenn and Enid had to distract the walkers float in on the sky. It's a nice image of almost like a rainbow after the flood type image, and everyone's kind of looking up to see those balloons as they float by. And she runs to Rick saying that it's Glenn and her hope is restored. However, as this happens, the watchtower, which we've kind of been hearing creak the whole episode and seen some little bits and pieces falling off of it, finally topples over and crashes into the perimeter wall that Rick and Tobin were working on shoring up. And walkers start to enter Alexandria as the episode ends.
I just want to say that was like the most Walking Dead sequence possible. Here's this wonderful metaphor for hope. Oh, good. One of our friends survived. Oh my God, that's so great. And the balloons floating in there, their spirits floating free. And then immediately after, the watchtower crashes and they're overrun with zombies again. I mean, that's not the Walking Dead. I don't know what it is. Here's hope. Let us extinguish it as quickly as possible.
You had your dose of hope. Glenn is alive. That's all the hope you get, mister.
That's right.
It's this great sine wave in multiple ways, actually, in both the tone, of dark, 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 happy, happy, and then dark, up, down, but then also a literal sine wave of the camera where you're at an even keel, just, standard 90-degree shots, and then all of a sudden the camera's panning up to see these balloons, and then it's panning down again as it follows the tower crashing down. And granted, there's multiple shots, but still it's that down, up, down, and it's, I really love that whole sequence.
And it looked legit too. If it was CG, which I don't think it was, but if it was, it looked really good. It didn't look fake. Like I've seen a lot of fake CG in the show. This looked very practical and very real. That tower falling down, I mean.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, that seemed to be a legit practical effect. So, gentlemen, in terms of Busters, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, what do you give Heads Up?
I'll give this a 3.75. It was definitely a good, solid episode of The Walking Dead. It had some good parts I liked in it. It wasn't as action heavy as some of the other episodes we've seen this season, but it didn't need to be either. It flowed very well for me. Seeing Glenn, the way he got out of the situation, albeit unscathed, was fine with me. It was leading us and tying up a lot of loose ends for the mid-season finale. The way it was shot was fine. And unlike you guys, I didn't have that many problems with Enid necessarily either. Although you guys seem to have something to say about her. I didn't really notice any major acting problems from her, but it wasn't anything that stood out either. I mean, she's a young actress and also I'm going to give her a pass. But other than that, solid. I'll take this all day. Call it a B-, 3.75. Works for me.
I also didn't have any problems with Enid. I think it was Russ and Jim who did. Surprisingly, we can get into that later, I guess, because nobody brought it up before. But anyway, Jim, your turn.
I give it a 3.5. It's not that I don't like the actress who plays Enid. I just don't like the character. It's kind of like the same problem I had with Lori Grimes. I just don't.
Can I ask you about that? Because nothing about her is bothering me, and I'm usually pretty picky. What's bugging you about Enid?
She just seems like to have survived this long in the zombie apocalypse to be kind of too wrapped up in herself, too much of the hot topic goth girl mentality. To be that long out in the apocalypse like this, if she's not tied into the wolves or has some other aspect to her character that we don't already know about, then she's annoying me.
I just don't. The whole bratty, I want to be a loner, even though time and time again it's been proven that we really need to stick together and I shouldn't act like this. And being bratty for no reason. Like, why is she purposely ignoring Glenn if she stuck around that long to make sure he was alive and to send him a bottle of water and then to just ignore him? and then not want to talk. And it's just like I don't like characters written that way. Again, yeah, my problem is with the actress. I think she's doing a fine job with the material she's been given. I just don't think she's a good character. I just it's almost like stereotypical bratty kid, and I just don't like the way she's written.
See, I don't know, because to a certain extent, I actually really do like the way she's written, because in those scenes with her and Glenn, and you have that battle of wills between them, I come down squarely on her side. She saved his life, now she wants to leave, and she doesn't want to go back, and this weirdo that she doesn't know is forcing her to come with. He essentially kidnaps her this episode. Let's not sugarcoat things. She is essentially an adult who wants to leave, and he forces her to return with him. This is not a person she knows. This is just some random guy who lived a few houses down from her for like 2 weeks. She wants to leave, and he's making her go back for no good reason. I don't know. I kind of like that because there's some ambiguity there. But
I'm not even just talking about this episode. I'm talking about the character overall too.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's fair enough.
But the episode 3-5 again, it just seemed like we've got a really good season so far. At least this half of the season has been really great. I mean, and this just seemed like one of those connective tissue type episodes to get things set up for the mid-season finale, and that's totally fine. There's some great visuals in this episode, like you said, during the whole sequence with the balloons in the watchtower. There's some great, well-acted scenes, like I mentioned, the four of the main actors together in that one scene. But it seemed more like a moving of the pieces on the chessboard, more than like a really blockbuster episode. So a 3-5 is a B+. So
yeah, I give it a 3.25. Honestly, I think if the Enid stuff didn't bug me so much, it probably would be 3.5. Like I said, good solid episode. I mean, there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't anything that just really made me angry or really dislike it. I mean, I have issues with Enid's character, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the show. So
I think I'm with Jim on this one with a 3-5, but we also need to be more or less the same territory. Certainly better than last week for me. And while yes, it was a place-setting episode, it was a bit of a disjointed episode. I think in terms of the disjointed episodes that we've had recently, and there have been a couple, this one probably did the most to keep the themes and the tone between those sections similar. And beyond that, I enjoyed all the sections. And a lot of times with these disjointed episodes, I enjoyed these two stories, but these four over here were only okay, and those two over there I didn't like at all. I pretty much liked all the little sub-stories in this episode. I got a couple of really good laughs out of it, and, it was just a refreshing palate cleanser for me after last week's 3.5. But who cares what we think of this week's episode, Jim? What did our listeners on the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group think of this week's episode?
the fabulous The Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group that we
that is exactly what I was referring to.
We're almost 700 members strong. We have 47 new members in the past month.
That's awesome.
So congratulations to you for joining, because you're in a really good spot. Not only do you get to join in with our Buster thread that we go over every week we talk about the episode, you also get links directly to Aaron Newer's write-ups of every week's episode of The Walking Dead. The direct links there in the Facebook group. There's also a lot of good funny memes going around, good discussion. We get some really good casting news. But the name of the group is The Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group, oddly enough, because you listen to The Walking Dead TV Podcast. And every week we ask people to give us their ratings from 1 to 5 Busters for this episode. And this is no exception. And we start off with Susan Monk. 3 missed opportunities for fun with helium voices out of 5. That's true. Tara Kawar, 4 falling watchtowers out of 5. Better episodes than the last 2, hands down. Here's hoping that little turd Ron gets devoured. Ow. And the final scene with the tower falling had me yelling, "Oh, mother dick." Can't wait for the mid-season finale. Max Sofer, 4 lost shoes out of 5. I literally laughed out loud when Glenn pulled himself under the dumpster. I can't believe they actually did that. Tune in next week when Porch Dick Jr. shoots someone he loves on accident, because he's coming a mile away. Cheryl Morris Goodman, 3.5, not quite 99 red balloons out of 5. I'm glad Glenn is alive, but it was a bit anticlimactic. Getting bored with the, hey, you're stupid Alexandrian and I'm Rick Grimes and I know better.
And listener, while you are correct that it's not quite 99 red balloons, you also might want to get yourself checked for color blindness, because those were green.
But I may be a petty jerk sometimes, but at least I can shoot. And did you see that metaphor with the neon lights? Brent Jones pointed out that he agrees that routine's getting stale, but the Alexandrians have started pointing it out now.
What neon lights was she talking about? Do you know what that was?
I don't know.
Okay.
Brent Jones, 3.5. I'm glad Rick hates Gabriel as much as I do out of 5. Amen, brother. Anticlimactic if you ask me, help the remaining 3 make it back next week, unless it was a trap by someone saying help on the walkies. Oh. So did halves of the herd converge upon Alexandria? We saw the group that converged on the RV chasing Rick back, but is that where Glenn's batch went as well? I think like half went with the one convoy with Daryl, and the other half went toward Alexandria, right?
And that other half went through the town where Glenn and everybody was.
Right.
So those walkers that ate Nicholas were part of the group that broke off and headed towards Alexandria. Whether those 30 or so zombies eventually made it or not, I couldn't tell you. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
Mike Jones gives a 2.5 King Diamond churches out of 5. A lot of missed opportunities here. The whole Glenn deal was just a mess. He would not escape that if walkers can move semi-trucks that can move a dumpster. Depends what's in the dumpster, I guess. Shayla Benzavega, 3.5 Busters. I'm glad Glenn is alive, but there's no way he survives the season. It's a shame it's so predictable. For a show that's supposed to be so shocking, I can't remember. The last time I was surprised. Now it would be shocking for me if Glenn did survive.
I have some thoughts on that, but we'll save it for the spoiler section.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Okay, cool.
Ian Timms, last 2 minutes, pushed it up another level. Next week should be awesome. 3.5 collections for a new church tower out of 5. Robert Nigro, 3 out of 5 stolen bullets. Mike, I think the church tower collapsed because they were scavenging wood from it to shore up the wall. First, I wasn't sure why I was being shown the falling pieces of wood earlier in the episode. We decided it was people throwing planks down off camera. That might explain why. That, I think the constant weight of the zombies too has something to do with it, right?
Probably. I don't think they were scavenging from the tower, though, because the tower's outside the wall,
Right.
Like completely.
Yeah.
So,
I think we were supposed to see it was so damaged from the attack, it was just collapsing under its own weight and pieces were starting to fall off.
Because remember, the semi-truck sideswiped it. And it
Oh,
caught
yeah,
fire
yeah.
at a certain point. So, I mean,
I forgot about the
there's a
truck
lot of
hitting
structural
it. I
damage.
forgot about the truck hitting it. Yeah, you're right. The Alexandria is frustrating me when the prison was threatened by walkers with a defense breach. Rick and Carl pretty much fought them off single-handedly during the flu time. Yeah, that's a good callback. Now I hope the cast gets whittled down a bit, even if that means Alexandria and its antibiotics and chilled white wine are no more. And Belinda Ake, 3 out of 5. What Robert Nigro said. Well put. Carl Hooker, 3.5. Medical cheat sheet chalkboards out of 5. The ending salvaged from this episode, along with some solid acting from Morgan and Dr. Denise. I agree on that. Monica Smith Anacito at 3.5. Ding dong, Glenn's not dead out of 5. I'm relieved that Glenn lives to see another day, but when is he going to learn that everyone can't be saved? Many cliffhangers at the end made this a good episode. Rob Cook, 3.75 weapons novices holding significant blades out of 5. Love that fact that Father Gabriel is still so ignored by Rick, he must be questioning his own existence. Glenn's okay.
He had no lines, just his face.
Yeah.
Just his face. That's all you had to see in the episode. That's all you need to hear from him.
Glenn's okay and exactly where we thought he was going to be. Anticlimax? Yeah, a little bit. Love the foreshadowing of the crumbling church throughout the episode, setting up the mid-season finale. P.S. Nothing good will come out of Ron's gun ownership. I agree there.
Ain't that the truth?
Richard Chopper Cherry Charrington, the episode gets a 3. I can't believe they just did that out of 5. They lost the Buster for Glenn surviving the way he did. Surely he would have gotten bitten while dragging himself under the bin. I'm slightly disappointed that The Walking Dead did that. I am agree with you, sir. The last 2 minutes were the high points, so really looking forward to next week's mid-season finale. Tanya Royston, I'm giving this 3 full gimples out of 5. Letting his vision play out without misleading statements and credit manipulation would have been a much bigger payout. I feel like the episode was setting up for the finale instead of being a meaningful one. Hey, think I just said that like 10 minutes ago. With
You're here, Tanya.
With the main character's resurgence. Q Terra, please. David B. the third, 3.75 hanging humans out of 5 for just hanging out over a herd of zombies. It's a new extreme sport. They call it Spenceling. As Edith said, the world was supposed to just die, so come on. Man escapes me because no one cares about you. And just fall in for food. Yeah, it's a new extreme sport. It's called Spenceling. You drink a bunch of Mountain Dew and you dangle out over some zombies with a grappling hook. It's a lot of fun.
And he was armed for war. He had the AK-47 over his back, and he was all strapped up in a backpack on. Like, what's he doing, man? Come on. You're not part of Rick's group.
Watch The Dark Knight one too many times.
Yeah.
But if you would like to join us on the Facebook group, we'd love to have you. Like I said, we have some fun memes. We have links to Aaron Newer's write-ups every week. We have good discussion on the group. It's pretty much troll-free as far as I can tell. And like I said, we always have everybody chiming in with their busters. Not only for each episode, for this season overall. So Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group. Join us.
Yeah, mostly troll free. We got a couple high elves walking around, but that's about it.
Yeah, and a couple of rockets.
Ba-da-ba-ba-dum-boom.
Hey.
So we have almost 700 members next week. If this keeps up, that's going to be really great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Really growing faster. So we also have Aaron, who sent in his review of this episode. But before we get to that, let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor. Of course, our sponsor this week and every week on the Walking Dead TV podcast is Discount Comic Book Service at dcbservice.com and their sister site, InStock Trades, at InStockTrades.com. Comics and comic book related merchandise. We're talking those pop, vinyl Funko Pop figures. We're talking t-shirts. We're talking hoodies. We're talking hats, backpacks, action figures, the McFarlane diorama sets for The Walking Dead. They're awesome, but they're also really expensive. So save yourself a ton of money and save yourself a trip out to the store because really, who wants to do that? And go to dcbservice.com, go to InStockTrades.com and get your comics and comic book related merchandise at a deep, deep discount. We're talking 10% off, 20% off, 40% off, 50% off, sometimes even better deals than that. Head over to InStockTrades.com, head over to dcbservice.com, let them know we sent you, and check out the awesome deals that you can get right now on the cool nerd stuff you want, and maybe get some holiday gifts for your friends and family, or let's face it, for yourself.
I was going to say, as we're recording this, everybody's getting all geared up for the Black Friday shopping bonanza that goes on every year, and I don't know, it's so much smarter to sit at home and shop online, go to DCB Service. You know you're going to get the customer service you need. You know you're going to get a good price. You know you're going to get some cool gifts for your geeky friends. Like Jordan said, even if you're not into the comics, they cover t-shirts and action figures and anything along those lines, man. Anything pop culture related, they can get it at a good deep discount. So, and save yourself the headache of having to go out and shop during the holidays and the crowds, the parking. Don't do it. Do a DCB Service. Save yourself the trouble.
Exactly. So like I said before, Aaron sent in his thoughts. He couldn't make it tonight, but he sent me this email. He says, heads up thoughts. Hey, you can start reading this post now. Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there. I got caught under a dumpster and my legs were conveniently left alone by the walkers surrounding me as I crawled under. Anyway.
But does he have my pizza?
Anyway, Heads Up was an okay episode with a few big highlights. While stringing out the fate of Glenn was pretty cheap when all was said and done, the execution of the scene and what follows was handled well enough. I enjoyed things involving Morgan and Carol because why wouldn't I? It was even nice to see someone from Alexandria actually be smart and work with Rick for a change. Of course, you still get two very stupid Alexandrians in the form of dumb gun-toting Ron and even dumber grappling hook climbing Spencer. Fortunately, all of that nonsense was halted by the tower that came crashing down. It's a great setup for next week's mid-season finale. For Heads Up, I go 3.5 busters with a side bonus for Rick still being a dick to Father Gabriel. And of course, if you head over to the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group, you can find the link to Aaron's full-on review over at theyoungfolks.com for this week's episode and every episode of The Walking Dead, and they're always a treat to read, so go over there and check that out. So we're about to head into the end. Of course, we're going to spend a few seconds talking about next week's episode, but before we get to that, remember, you can contact us at wdtv@hhwlod.com or follow us on Twitter. I'm at JordanFRNJersey, Craig is at AutoChatShow, Jim is at Yoda Jones, and Russ is at R Latham, Latham. And so until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, everyone hates Father Gabriel, and they should. Have a good week, everybody. That one's lazy, but I'm fine with it because everyone should hate Father
He's kind of a dick. You're right.
He is the worst.
He's a porch dick.
And next week on The Walking Dead, of course, if you don't want to know anything about next week's mid-season finale, tune out now. We won't be offended, but if you don't mind knowing just a bit about the episode, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Season 6, Episode 8 is entitled Start to Finish, and the very vague, I know I say that every week, but it's always amusing to me how vague the descriptions are. The description we have from AMC.com is multiple problems crash together.
You can use that for like every episode.
Yeah,
The description.
yeah, like any drama really. If there's any kind of conflict whatsoever.
Even those comics.
Yeah, a lot of those. Yeah. Here, spoiler: there will be zombies.
Yeah, and the previews we see for next week's episode are pretty much zombies coming through the wall. It all looks very cool. Presumably everyone gets back in this next episode, and there's lots of cool stuff there. Now the question is Ron going to shoot Carl? Is Ron going to shoot Rick? Is Ron going to shoot both of them? Is Ron going to try? Is Ron going to shoot himself in the foot? Probably. Could Ron be the hero of this entire show and go kill Father Gabriel? That's all I'm saying. It's a possibility. You guys have anything else to say about the mid-season finale before we close it out? Editor's note. Hey, you. Yes, you. After I stop giving this warning, there's about 2 minutes of legit comic book spoilers that follow, and I mean it. Like, if you kind of listen to spoilers sometimes, know it's probably fine. Legitimate comic book spoilers follow for the next 2 minutes. This is your only warning, but I want to give an extra one here just because we don't normally do this, and these are real spoilers. So
No, but some Glenn predictions. I think Jim and I had a couple of ideas, and I'm sure you guys do too. But I guess I'll start off by saying, yes, he's alive. We all know in the comic books, and we're not going to go too deep into it, but what happens, Glenn's fate is pretty much sealed by a character coming up. We know he's been cast, and he's going to be probably in the end of this season. But I wonder if they're going to really just head fake us, like Glenn is not going to die at the end of the season, and somebody else will.
Maybe
That's kind of what I'm
Gabriel?
thinking. Another major character in his place.
Yeah, they've shuffled things around like that before. Like they would have like major story elements from the comic, but in a different way or in different context with different characters. So, I mean, I could see them doing that. But I mean, his last dance with Lucille, as it were.
Right.
well, I mean, for instance, I guess I'll put out a disclaimer before this saying, hey, everybody, we're about to go into full-on comic spoilers. But I think also, speaking of mixing things around, I'm pretty sure Ron's going to be the one to shoot Carl in the face. And
Oh,
that's
you
how
think
he's
he's?
gonna die.
Oh, I don't think he's done.
No, I don't think he's
not
done. I don't think he's done. I think he's going to get shot in the head.
Oh, okay, that's true. Yeah.
Just like he did in the books.
Right.
And he's going to be an awesome Cyclops who goes on into the future being a badass.
Yeah.
I actually kind of really hope that happens, to be honest.
So there's a justification to kill Ron.
Yeah, and an awesome reason for Carl to be even cooler.
Yeah.
And what is going to turn Enid towards staying in the town more than having an awesome Cyclops boyfriend? I mean, come on.
That's pretty
Ladies,
goth.
you know what I'm saying, right?
That was pretty goth.
What do you keep calling her goth?
She just comes across that way to me. She's
She's
that kind
pale.
of, what's that kind
She's
of
kind of
no,
pale.
that kind of self-affected adolescent phase.
I think you just mean teenager.
No, a certain
Teenage
phase of
angst.
teenager.
Yeah, it's a little
certain
more
phase, certain subdivision of teenager. Yeah.
But that's about it for this week's episode. So we will catch you guys next week for the mid-season finale. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Good night.
I went on a balloon ride, I can see everything from up here. I went on a balloon ride and now everything seems clear.
All right, so we're joined by Jim. Jim, are you ready to start? I'll count you in here. 3, 2, 1, record.
And I'm recording.
All right, and then just 1,
2,
3,
75,
4.
48.
All right, that should
What?
work.
Hike?
Yeah, I think that might come out. I did bite Carl in the butt a little bit.
Jim, we can barely
Yeah,
hear
you
you.
muted, buddy?
My daughter was in there. I did mic turn down.
So if you figure Michonne's totally the hand of the king, and Carol's the spider, who's the master of coin in the small council?
Well, it's either Daryl
No,
or
no,
Glenn,
no,
right?
no, no. So, Carol is Robert Duvall. And
Okay, now we're changing the metaphor.
Michonne is James Caan, you know, the hot-headed son, and
See, I was going Game of Thrones, not Godfather, but
Godfather's got okay. So wait, who's Sonny now? Who's it? Michonne?
James Caan, yeah,
That's funny.
the enforcer, you know.
Would you have to read Aaron's review? I guess I forgot to mention it.
yeah, I was going to do that after the listeners.
Oh, okay.
But thank you.
Yeah, well, see, Craig is supposed to remind, so that worked out.
And I just did my job. I fulfilled my duty.
Good job, pal.
Just to double check, was her joke Shiite?
Well,
Scott
I
Gimple?
kind of, I can't, we can't, I'm making that up right now. I can't say shit, right?
No, I'm pretty sure she was saying Shiite, as in Shiite Muslim.
No,
because
she's
trying
giving
to
us a 3 full of shit gimples out of 5.
Oh, I
That's the way
heard
it reads.
full on Shiite, and I thought she meant because of his beard. Okay, never mind.
No, because the way he was teasing us, I think that's what she's talking about. And
I
that's
was like, I
what
thought he
I'm
was a little bit more like a rabbi than a Shiite.
I
But
said
either way.
to kind of like sidestep the fact that
No, you're fine. That was a misunderstanding from my part because I'm not reading along.
Have fun with this edit, Jordan.
Oh, this is a great blooper.
Fig nuts. There you go. Now it's a real blooper. There's a callback.